Beautiful job. Okay, there are three things I'm going to talk about right now. We're kind of with time, so it's going to come at you really fast. One is clarity of line. You know, in Schumann's music, and you guys must know this and think about the pieces of Schumann that you've played or that you're working on. There are lots of layers going on in Schumann's music in a really exquisite way, right? I mean, there are just all these melodies and counter melodies, great accompaniments going on. But it's so important, and just like how, you know, when you're approaching any kind of contrapuntal music, I mean, you have to carefully craft it so that each line is being shaped appropriately. I get lost a little bit at times with all the distractions that are going on. So I think it's your job right now, because you know you have such a clear sense of what I think you want to do musically, but now refine what you want, be reminded of what the melody is going to be, and or what the simplicity of a line is going to be, right? Just like how we were talking to Irene about practicing, you know, the line separately, you know, and with maybe an accompanimental left hand. I think you could really afford that, you know. So, for example, even in the Fireside, just the it gets so lost with all the going on. So can you bring out just the melody for me? Yeah. So that jump or that leap of I don't need to know that that's a hand position change. You know what I mean? That's our problem as a performer. But the tune is right. So can you I see, because you're using an impossible finger. You're using 5/5. Are you doing that? Yes. That? Yep. See, you're cheating in all the right places, and still you give yourself a bad right? So you have 5, but you put 2 right there. One more time. And that change, because that's your short-term goal there, right? Does that make sense? Can you do that in this short period of time? Right. So it makes so much more sense, I think, to do that, because otherwise there's this huge hole, you know, to do it. And then when you're practicing this alone, you know, when you're practicing, remember what upbeats are. Because this upbeat is, I mean, this is kind of what's, you know, giving us this rocking quality, you know, also in the horse, the hobby horse too, you know, we find it there too, but if we feel that this is the downbeat, it throws us the entire time, right? So anyhow, for example, something like that, I think that you could really afford to just, again, be reminded of what the ultimate shape is that you want to achieve, and then you know, work on it backwards like that. So find it and then put it together, and have all these supportive, you know, members here. Which brings me to my next thing, which is harmony. Schumann is so fantastic and so masterful at how he makes like the most simple harmony so interesting, because it's like he's got the most. Have you guys all been to O.B. Taylor yet? Yeah? Field trip. Oh no. So at O.B. Taylor, like, I mean, go and grab one of those great kaleidoscopes. You know, those real simple, like you turn the kaleidoscope and the pieces fall to, you know, and they make different shapes and colors. But and he does this so masterfully and so colorfully. And I don't think that you're hearing that, because oftentimes you're not holding the held notes. If you're holding the held notes and notes are shifting around it, and then the pieces fall together, and then we're at a new harmony, it spells something completely different. You know, and it makes you hear it completely differently, you know, and you play it differently. once you're aware of that. But it's at times it's to write this chord, this chord. No, there's so many more like transitional chords where the pieces are kind of like falling into place. But you have to make sure that you hold on to them. So it's throughout here, but I'm also going to address where else. Well, it's in all of these, but actually give me this, the fragment. Yeah, so I actually think that this is too fast. I think that there's, that when something is frightening, okay, I mean, so maybe you'll walk a little bit faster, but I mean, I think that, the tension comes from, right? So don't let it go, because as soon as you let it go, we're ahead of them. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So can you be a little bit more? And then listen to your harmonies a lot. Right? And then just let D is held over on purpose and right? So all of those harmonies and those tension have got to be understood in your ears. Okay, one more time. But even your B makes it sound like we're enjoying, something quite lovely. And instead it's and that static kind of movement of like, oh my gosh, I know I should run, but I can't because I'm so scared. There's so many repeats in here that at times you can slowly get into it, right? You can even change, I think, explore different articulations, so that you're kind of easing your way into running, right? Does that make sense? One more time, and then I'll show another example. Good, and going back to the first thing of finding the melodic line and sustaining it, because here, and this. Okay, so just be careful. So those are those two things. And then the third thing that I want to talk about is just the one, and it affects the two that we just talked about too, is your inner notes. I think have got to stay in character, right? So all the space and all the sound that's happening between the actual notes that you're playing have at times they're too active, and I feel like your activity bumps us off of like what a great path that you've led for us, or that you've created for us. And and this is a great example of the great harmonies. Find a groove, watch my son fall asleep, right? So, because it literally is just like breathe down, right? But there's no, if there's any like sudden movement, he's up, just like that. Okay, one more time. I want a blanket of sound here. I want to equal the same thing. I don't want, and here's where I don't want contour of. We were talking about in the fantasy of where to do the skiing shape, right? This is not a moment, because this is really outlining this. They're tight chords. Does that make sense? They're one color. One more time. Even this. So that F sharp feels like it's out of nowhere. so worried about the all the little shapes and nuggets of these intervallic leaps. Just really be reminded of the character, which is exactly what I would suggest in the poet speaks too. Here, I feel again like the inner notes. It should be one. It's like you're playing on a violin using a double bass bow. That you've got the longest bow in the world because you're also going to pace it so well. You guys should all do this as an etude for control, because it's hard, right? I mean, it's so easy to do, and then it sounds very muppet, right? I mean, it sounds very chewy, right? But if we go to here and change bow direction. Don't let anybody know. You're matching sounds and recovering and resuming, right? You try that. Even this is already such a handicap. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. You're giving yourself away, and then what are the chances that you're going to find it again right here? So oftentimes it helps so much when you're playing long notes, like in a slow tempo, to be subdividing, to know where you're matching and where your line is going, because otherwise it's so easy for it to dip down and to feel like you need to revive it. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, but it sounds absolutely beautiful. But I think these three items to remember would really help. Okay. All right. Good. Thank you.